Hey guys, welcome to the Elms 1+1 series. Our church is very relational. We love building community. This is what our church is here for. And as Pastor Dave and I were talking about what it means to build community for people in our neighborhood, we're actually thinking about there's so many misconceptions of this word community. What does that actually mean? Through just our experiences and ministries, we've always seen certain things that, kind of hurt community and wasn't really helpful, or we saw things that was really, really good. And we really wanted to go in depth with just our experiences, share that with you, invite you into this conversation. There is this quote by the poet Rumi, and he said, "You think because you understand one, you must also understand two. Because one and one make two, but you must also understand and." That's really important for us. What does it mean? What is that thing that's bringing us together? So I would like to actually invite Pastor Dave to kind of go more into that. I know we were talking about this, in my apartment one time, and we're just saying, "Oh, what does that really mean?" So I would love for you to go more into that.
Yeah. So this series is actually birthed out of a lot of conversations around community. As a church, we're all about building communities. We talk about it a lot. And as we have this conversation with a lot of people around us, we kept finding that we were coming up against these competing definitions of what community is. What is healthy community? And I can think of some examples right now. Sometimes people treat church community like it's a safety net. You want to have it, but you don't really need it, and it's kind of just on the side. You go to it when you have time. You go to it when there's when you're not as tired. It's on the side. Other times we treat community like it's the end all be all, and people spend all their time in church community. They neglect their families or their neighbors, their neighborhood, or even their coworkers. But church community, when it's healthy, actually empowers us to go outward and invest in other people's lives. One final example I can think of is we treat church community like it's a playground for individual advancement, our own advancement. And oftentimes that means we neglect, empowering other people, lifting other people up. But church community is not any of those three things. And that's why we put the series together, so that we could address some of that.
As we continue this series, we want to invite you into these conversations with us. And with us, we have Arthur, who is also part of our pastoral staff. He moved here from Brooklyn into Elmhurst to create ministries here, growth groups, gathering with people, even through COVID, online. And, through these ministries, definitely, I know, Arthur, you've seen a lot where people come together and, join your ministries, just really growing in Christ with us. We also have Sandy, who is our children's ministry director. Sandy is a resident of Elmhurst. She grew up here and did a lot of work here. I know her personally through different ministries in the neighborhood. And now she is here doing a lot of things at the local parks, even through COVID. Everything that she's doing, so many things, just building community in Elmhurst. So we really appreciate that all of us are just kind of here and that we're here discussing what this series might be and what it means to you. So I would love to ask you guys, what do you hope people will get out of this series? And how do you think the church will look differently afterwards?
So that's a great question. When I think of community, especially in the church, right? Dave said it really best. When we think of community here, as sometimes we can treat it as a stand-in. Sometimes we can treat it as something that we just need to get through in order for something better to happen. So our hope, or at least my hope, is to see that, hey, whether you're single, whether you're married, whether you have kids, community is just as important for all of us, especially after our experiences together in COVID. I think community has just shown itself to be even more crucial in how we grow and how we sustain ourselves, and also in how we can be a positive presence in our neighborhood. So really, after this series, our hope is to have meaningful conversations, but even more so to do life together in a more deeper level, to be more intentional about it. I think that's really what my hope is, at least, for this series.
Yeah, doing life together is really, it's like a lingo that we use here a lot, which is great because you're really working together, knowing each other's lifestyles. I think even within our smaller clubs, you had said, like if you want to grab a taco at nighttime, like why not? Just call up at midnight and be like, I want to go grab a taco, which we have. We've done that. We got a halal food in the city at midnight, and it's very, very. It's just doing life together, right? Sandy, what about you? What do you feel?
I think community is a hot buzzword right now. We use it a lot because it's something that we really try to build, but sometimes it's hard for us to conjure up that image in our heads, like what does community really look like? And it can look different for many different people and different cultures and different environments. But my hope is that we can break past some of the myths that are in our culture and some of the expectations that are there but are not right. So I find that these myths can be very unhealthy for the actual community that we are trying to build up. And by breaking through those myths, by busting them, we can build something healthier with our church community and be able to share life a little better without those expectations bogging us down.
Yeah. And so many false expectations too, I feel. So definitely. Pastor Dave, do you want to just kind of tell us what we'll expect through these series? How many series?
So there's five series that we want to tackle here, and they're going to deal with what does it mean to have community and what does that practically look like. But we want to actually address it from different standpoints of community, what does community mean for a married person, parenting, or for the single person? How do each of us find community in the church, and why does that matter?
I think it's so important just because no one talks about this that I know of. Just within our experiences, we do know that these 3 life stages, and I'm sure there's many more, that there's so many things that are not spoken about, so many false expectations, so many myths about them. But meanwhile, we as people that are doing ministry, it's somehow these false expectations, these myths are affecting how we build community.
I mean, it's even in the language that we use. Yeah. And it's the expectations are built into the language we use. And I think that's what's really tripping us up. We use things we say life stages when we talk about parenting or marriage. And it makes the single person feel like they're not at that upper level of stage in life. But single people that follow the Lord and learn to love people broadly are following Jesus in beautiful, spectacular ways. And it requires a tremendous amount of maturity to do that. Why is that not celebrated? Or married people, if they don't have kids yet, the constant question, when are you going to have kids? As if that's the next stage. But some married people are not, they don't need to have kids. They can adopt kids, or they can be a parental figure with a parental heart for those around them without actually having their own kids. But when we use the language of life stage, that's another false expectation that you're incomplete as a single person, or you're incomplete as a married person until you have kids. And I think that's tripping people up. It's really keeping us from enjoying a diverse, healthy community. And again, no one's talking about it. No one is saying that's not right, that we're treating it like life stages when it really should be finding your own maturity along the path that Jesus has called you to, where you can love people with maturity.
Yeah. And even doing that together is so important, right? I think of a cluster of grapes rather than just a bag of marbles. And we really need to somehow pour into each other that way, no matter where you are in life, right?
I also think that when there are false expectations there for us, when people push those on us, we also carry them even heavier. Yeah. I don't know if that makes sense. Because we know those expectations are out there, that is the thing that's culturally appropriate, knowing that, we hold back from sharing what is really true. And I think that can be really toxic for ourselves, that we put on ourselves, not just from the outside force, but it becomes heavier for ourselves. I'm really hoping that in the series, if we can tackle those false expectations, then we can be more true to ourselves and more true to the community and be as authentic as we possibly can.
Really appreciate having you listen to us and also just have this conversation with you. Please continue watching. We're going to be posting these next series on our website, on YouTube, I believe also on Facebook, Instagram. We're actually very good on social media, so please follow us, write us messages, any questions like that. The next series is going to be on marriage, so please stay tuned for that.